So if I were to ask you, where does one get the most bang for the dollars in speech, right? So I have $1 million. I have $1 million. This guy has $1 million. That guy has $1 million. I have a problem to solve. And he has a problem to solve, and she has a problem to solve. And there are different problems, and we solve them. But one of us, let's say, has the biggest bang for that dollar spent. For example, transcription, medical transcription, or whatever it may be. What do you think that is? Like, where is the speech strongest when it comes to solving a problem?
I think you're asking what would be the most profitable place to invest some development money in speech.
Well, I'm thinking about the customer getting the most value for their dollars, perhaps, and maybe those are more or less the same. But
it depends what the customer needs, right? So, you mentioned earlier that I'm involved in more than one startup.
Yes,
So we have Cobalt Speech and Language, which is my primary focus. But Cobalt has spun off some companies over the years, or helped found or helped establish some other companies that we then. So they're all related to Cobalt. They're not like, I'm not just like splitting my time in 4 completely independent directions.
No, I understand that. The forefronts of Cobalt,
right. So one of those that we are excited about is Canary Speech, which is doing a great job at cracking the problem of detecting disease and health conditions through your speech. If you think about it, you remember I said that speech was this complex process that involved many different systems of the human body. And so now if there is something that's not quite right with your lungs, your breathing, your throat, your mouth, your brain, any of these things that involve that, is going to come out in the speech. There's going to be some artifacts in the speech, and Canary is doing a great job to discover those and to find those biomarkers, so that with a sample of speech that's maybe 20 seconds or a minute long, they can detect things like stress, anxiety, maybe Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, things like that, which is really exciting. And I think that has a huge potential. So if you ask me the bang for the buck, I'm very excited about what we're doing at Canary. I think that is, that's an area that is just going to explode in the next few years.
No, that would be huge, right? Being able to without intervention, without intrusion, like you don't need to give them blood or right.
You just give speech.
Give speech, and you are giving speech all the time, right? We're talking all the time. And so, give me an example of something that they feel that they have been able to detect pretty reliably in terms of error, in terms of accuracy.
Well, we've done several projects over the years. The thing that I think is most is sort of at the front and center right now is stress and anxiety, which is a huge problem, especially during the pandemic. There's a lot of people under stress. And you look at our healthcare system. Our healthcare system itself is overburdened to the point that doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals are under more stress now than they ever have been. And it's nice. It's nice to be able to detect when they're speaking, that you could tell a doctor, look, you need to go take a break, or whatever.
Wow.
So I hope that answered your question.
No, it did. So things like stress, and so that's interesting, right? Because most of the effort has been so far to use speech to extract words and meaning and so forth, and yet we use speech, we can detect a lot of stuff. Like, for example, I may listen, like my wife is on the phone. I can't hear exact words, but I can tell, how the conversation is going,
right?
From the tone,
right? Yeah. When we talk to each other, we infer a lot more information than just the words from the other person. We can sense, are they happy or angry? We can sense if they're sick. We can sense if they're. I can tell if I'm talking to a new person for the first time. I get pretty quickly a model of, sort of how well educated they are. Do they have an accent? Are they old? Are they male? There's just a lot of
Are they relaxed? Are they are they stressed
exactly
out? Yeah.
all of that stuff, and that's the sort of the speech analytics component that I'm very excited about. And Canary's focused on the disease condition detection, but we at Cobalt are also looking at other aspects of that, like detecting age, gender, accent, and so forth.
Okay, so detecting age, for example, how hard is that problem?
It's hard to get it perfectly right, but
Yeah.
it's not hard to get it to get a reasonable estimate, and especially if you're doing aggregate statistics, like if you're a call center and you want to know, let's say the people who call in and complain about service, are they mostly young or middle age or old?
Right.
You can get pretty accurate statistics in aggregate statistics, even if you can't tell for any one speaker that person was 52 years old or whatever.
Yeah. Do you think that this is one of those where the software or the AI will be more performing than a human being? Because sometimes I have a hard time telling whether this person is.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't. I wouldn't. I think male, female, perhaps, probably a lot more accurate. But do you think this is one of those examples of where the technology might be better than humans?
Yeah, eventually.
Feels like it, right?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
And so Canary is one, and there is voice script or an Omnibot. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those two?
Yeah,
guys?
Omnibot is an exciting company that is they're based in Germany, and their focus is on like chatbots and voice bots, and so they tend to go after more of the European market, and they tend to be focused on these conversational systems, chatbots and voice bots. And they're having some good success there, and that's exciting. But it's a very different business from Canary. And then VoiceScript is the most recent startup. It's about a year old, and it's focused on transcription specifically for the legal services market. So whenever in a courtroom. If you've seen like old movies in a courtroom, there's someone typing on a stenograph that's going typing in real time what's being said. But the people who know how to do that are aging and retiring, and there's a big problem now of how to accurately transcribe legal proceedings in a courtroom or for a legal deposition, for example. And so VoiceScript is cracking that code, is solving that problem with digital reporters, meaning humans who transcribe not with a stenographer machine but with a laptop, and they have a digital recording, and we're using speech recognition to improve the efficiency and accuracy of all of that. So it's a hybrid human technology approach that is really getting a lot of attention now, especially, I have to say, especially during the pandemic that we're in, where there's been a lot of pressure to do things remotely, where the transcription now has a higher there's a higher importance on that transcription, and technical challenges to do that when the call is happening over Zoom or some other video chat platform and so forth. So VoiceScript is addressing that market and those problems, and that appears to be really on the brink of, well, not just on the brink, it is growing pretty rapidly, that whole market. There's a great need for that there.
So do you think it'd be fair of me to say that you are sort of like a heavily involved VC? I mean, I'm just looking at this, and it seems like a fascinating model of somebody who is deep into their into that space, and then is doing two things, right? Is building, but also is creating small companies, or maybe helping create small companies and investing in them. And what do you think? I mean, would that be fair for me to say?
That's absolutely fair, except to make sure to clarify that we aren't typically investing money into
Mhm.
these companies. We're investing technology
Yes, but it's
into the
investment.
companies, right? It is a big investment,
Yeah.
and a lot of time too. We put a lot of time and technology into these startups, and get them started, and then they independently also raise outside. They raise money from real VCs, money VCs. We're the tech VC in a way, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a fair way to do it. You asked earlier if Cobalt was a product or a services company.
Yeah.
We're really, and I said we were both. We're really three different kinds of companies. We're product, we're services, and we're this VC company, or you might think of us as a speech accelerator,
Incubator, maybe, or more than that.
incubator, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the three main pillars of Cobalt, of how we keep ourselves
Yeah.
relevant and profitable. So it's exciting. So and we're always open. If someone has a great idea for a speech product, I've talked about some of those, but there are others that
Yeah.
I can't tell you about that are
Yeah.
in the works,
Yeah.
where we'll be spinning something else off. And if people have other ideas for that, we're always
Yeah.
eager to hear about them.
No, I mean, it's really interesting because it feels like to me, it feels like the model for the future for companies, like the past, let's call it humanity or technology 1.0, is a company. There's one company, and it goes and swallows other companies and just swells
Yeah.
and swells and just puts them under one, box and so forth. Whereas here, it feels like from the get go, you start with one, and then you sort of you're adding an ecosystem of companies. You're giving them their space, their culture, their way of doing things. So instead of being hemmed in by like one Google or one Amazon, it feels like an old model. It seems like you're innovating at that meta level as well. Would that be fair to say?
We like to think so. Although because we're innovating, there's some risk there, and
Of course. Yeah.
we're always nervous that we've got the balance not quite right. But we're trying hard to keep everything
Yeah.
balanced so that we don't get out ahead of ourselves in one area or another.
No. I mean, I think. This is a compelling story, right? I think you guys should make a lot more of it. Meaning, I had to think and listen to you to be able to come up with this perception of Cobalt. But I mean, that Cobalt is really exciting now that I'm looking at it in that sense.
Yeah.
And you may want to make more noise that way, because it's. I mean, it seems like this is because right now there's a lot of negative feelings, very justified, against these big behemoths, these Amazons and all, who are just, gaining greater and greater control of our, of our ecosystem, and that's not healthy, right? What is healthy is the cultivation of all these small companies and helping them grow and so forth, and that's where you get all kinds of crazy good stuff, right?
I
That you
think
wouldn't
so.
be able to get as a team within a company who's looking at their stock, is it going up or down and so forth, right?
Right.
Anyway, so speaking of Amazon, I think it would not be a good thing for us not to talk about your time that you spent there. I think you became part of Amazon as part of an acquisition, right? And yet another
That's right.
one, Yap,
That's right.
right? So maybe you can tell us a little bit about Yap, and then why, if you can share the information, why did Amazon get interested in Yap, and then your work at Amazon, all in one fell swoop.
Sure. So I mentioned earlier that I spent the first half of my career, 13 years, at the sequence of companies that ended up being Nuance. And I was happy. I wasn't going to leave there. But I got an interesting phone call one day from some guy at Yap, the founder, Igor Yablokov. And he said, could you, come talk to us about working here? And I don't know why, because I got calls from recruiters all the time, and I just said, no, I'm not interested. But for some reason, I felt like I should take this call. And I ended up getting excited about working with them and building a speech capability within this startup. Yap was focused on server-based speech recognition. What's like very common now, but at the time, Yap was a pioneer, and our focus ended up being, where we got most of our deals was in transcribing voicemails.
Hmm.
And they indulged me to build a really quality R&D team at
Hmm.
Yap, and we ended up being, I think, the first instance of a commercial company where our artificial speech recognition was as good as human transcription. That is, our competitors were using humans to transcribe voicemails,
And you get better.
and we matched them.
You
I
match
won't
them at
say
the
we
very
were
least.
better, but
Yeah.
we got as good as they were with just the human speech, and that attracted the attention
Of course.
of Amazon. Now, we
Mhm.
didn't know it at the time, but Amazon had been secretly at the highest levels. Jeff Bezos and his TA Greg Hart and a few others had decided that they wanted to build something like the Alexa platform, and we and they needed the speech technology, and they need to figure out, are they going to buy it or build it or what? And they looked around and they found Yap, and they said, no, that's a small, affordable company for us to acquire, and they have good speech technology. But they did not tell us at all what they were thinking of doing. That the whole idea of that Amazon Echo and whatever, that was top secret. Even within Amazon, people didn't know about it. Even at high levels within Amazon, people didn't know about it.
Mhm.
So they came and they acquired us and wouldn't tell us why they were acquiring us, which was frustrating, but also kind of intriguing that we were getting acquired by Amazon and did not know why, what their plans were for us. So after the acquisition, a couple of weeks later, it actually took like a week or two after the acquisition before they brought us all together. They flew my team all out to Seattle and locked us in a room and shut the windows and said, "Okay, now we're going to tell you what we're building." And they described the Amazon Echo system. And
That was what was 11, 12,
this
11,
was in
10,
2011.
11, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and they brought us in a room and they told us what their vision was, and my first thought was, they're in trouble. They want to do something that's way more ambitious than the technology will support right now. And specifically,
Yeah.
the problem was they wanted to recognize speech from a distance,
Yeah.
and no one had really cracked that problem yet.
Not really. Yep.
Remember, I said that just at about that same time, these deep neural networks had become successful in speech, but it turns out they were also very good at recognizing speech at a distance. And so this technological improvement played in. It was just the perfect timing.
Yeah.
That came around just at the time that Amazon said, we want to
Yeah.
build this device.
Yeah.
And so I led the team there. I hired a whole bunch of people, and I stayed for 3 years to build the first version of the Amazon Echo and that Alexa platform, which we were able to launch. It was very exciting. That was a very heavy time, very, very cool project to be part of.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think you guys solved some tough problems, right?
Yeah.
The far field is a tough problem.
Yeah.
And also the speed, right? I mean, the thing that
Yes.
struck me the most is the speed, of responding, which I think there is a trick to it, right? It's feeding. Is it feeding the recognizer as you're speaking after the wake word, and as when you finish talking?
Yeah. So
that's not when it starts processing, something like that.
Yeah. So there's something like that going on. So that is, people don't always realize that on the and look, I've been gone from Amazon for 7 years.
Sure. No.
So I can't speak to
exactly how they're doing it.
They don't tell me their secrets anymore. I don't know exactly what they're doing now. But at the time, people didn't realize there were 2 speech recognizers involved. There was a small one on the device that only was listening for the wake word. And it ignored everything else. It only knew how to recognize the wake word. And then when it heard the wake word, it would package up that speech with whatever speech followed and send it up to the cloud in a streaming way so that it can get recognized sort of more or less in real time. And then evaluated, acted on, and come back. So people worry about it listening all the time, and the recognizer on the device is listening all the time, but it's only listening for that wake word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so the only thing that gets sent up to the cloud is if it hears the wake word and something after it.
Right.
Anyway, so you're right. The speed, figuring out how to get those two engines to work together, how to get them both to be very fast, and how to do that in a streaming way. That was also an interesting challenge to work on.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if you're following this this evolving drama from people who are called Alexa, right? I don't know if you've seen that, right? So there was like an article published on Sunday. It was a big one in the business section, and it was I think 3,000 word story about humans who have had it, right? Because their life has been upended by right.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that, hey, it's not a big deal, but for them, it's a big deal. So the question that some people have asked me, because I'm engaged with these folks. They tell me things, and I'm not driving it, but I'm involved with them in some very minor way. But one of the things they ask me is changing a wake word. Let's put aside the branding, right? The fact that probably is the biggest problem. But if they were to decide to create a new wake word completely from scratch, to the extent that you know this technology, how much of a pull do you think it is to just have it be answer to something other than the 3 or 4 that they have?
Yeah, right. So so that's the first thing that a lot of people don't know, is that there are multiple wake words that they support. You can change it from Alexa to Amazon, or from or to computer, and then it behaves a little bit like Star Trek. If you say computer, turn on the lights. So you can change it. So if you have someone in your house whose name is Alexa or Lexi or Alexis or something that sounds like that, you can change it to one of those others. I think it's not impossible. The technology is there that they could let you make the wake word whatever you want it to be. But I think Amazon's worried about branding concerns.
And, but technologically, if they let's say they decided to come up with, instead of just Alexa, they have Rebecca and they have Nancy and they have Roger and they have Jeffrey, right? Like they said, okay, we're gonna create 10 of them, and we're not gonna default. You're gonna pick as a way to solve this this thing. What do you think? Is that something that is just beyond what they can do, or something within what they can do, or somewhere in between?
The technology is not a problem.
Not a problem. Yeah,
it's a business question. It's a
business question,
branding question, right? If you gave everybody 10 names and there wasn't a default and they could pick whatever, then people would just not. It would not have the same presence in the minds of people around the world. Right now, if you say Alexa, they know what you're talking about, and if it weren't that way, it would be harder. So.
I understand. I mean, if they had started with, say, Astro, like from day one, Astro, right? Astro would have been the thing. And I think the mistake, to the extent that one can call it a mistake, I don't know if it's a mistake, to the extent that it's hurting people, I think it's a mistake. They should have chosen something other than a human being, perhaps. But I was just curious about the technology itself. It's not a big deal to.
The technology is not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. Okay. One last question on that is not on that, but on this far field and so forth. Like I use Alexa every single day for many things, right? But those things they are very value delivering to me. Are things like set the alarm and what time is it, and very easy things, not challenges to the speech recognition at all. But obviously they deliver a lot of value to me. Okay. The question is this: if how much of that can be done locally, right? If one were to decide that we're gonna let the complicated one go to the cloud, but things like what time is it and what's the weather and so on, and the timer, we'll do them locally. Do you think that it's doable now to do it locally?
Oh yeah, it is, and in fact. Cobalt has worked with some partners that have done exactly that.
Right.
That do home automation where it does not go out of the home. It does all the processing locally on the home, and we've got it works perfectly. It works at least as well as going out to the cloud.
Wonderful. Okay, well, my time is up. This hour went by very fast. I got a chance to ask you the questions I want to ask you. Jeff, do you want to say anything else? Like, where can people find you if they are looking to hunt you down?
I am not hard to find.
No.
So you can find me on LinkedIn, and
Yep.
I'm happy for people to look for me on LinkedIn. You can just look for Jeff Adams at Cobalt Speech and Language. You can send me an email. The easiest way to send me an email to Cobalt, if you're talking about Cobalt in general, you can just send something to info@cobaltspeech.com. And like I say, I'm not hard to find. So people, I would be thrilled if I got 10 people reaching out to me after this that hear this or 100 people, whatever, that want to talk about Cobalt services, opportunities for working here, or a startup with our incubator program or something like that. That would be really interesting. So I hope people do reach out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys who are listening need somebody who will take care of you, who will listen to you, and who will give you technology, and who has been doing this for a long time, and who has an ecosystem, it looks like, of innovators, right? I think Cobalt is the way to go. Jeff Adams, thank you so much for your time. It was fun.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
You bet. Anytime. Take care.
Bye-bye.